Hello, everyone. It's Sonya Jenkins here with another week of motivation to help you get through the week. I must say, celebrity success tips have been helpful for me to get to my goals and to continue pursuing my goals. But what has helped me most have been spiritual principles and the Word of God. This week, I decided to bring you some of the Word of God from Bishop T.D.Jakes, who I first interviewed back in the 90s when Woman Thou Art Loose came out. I'm also bringing you some success tools from my very own big brother, Pastor Lee Jenkins of Eagles Nest Church, and one of my favorite pastors, Bishop C.Bronner of Word of Faith Family Worship Cathedral. You know what I always say, there is nothing to it but to do it. Let's go. My brother, Lee Allen Jenkins Jr., is not only a financial expert, author, and pastor of Eagles Nest Church in Alpharetta, Georgia, but he has been my protector all of my life, along with my dad until my dad passed away. My brother, my big brother that is, taught me the ropes. Now, did I listen to everything he said? Of course not. But I was his cheerleader, and you better believe that I learned more discipline by watching him as an athlete and by watching him as a man of God. Now, did my brother cause me a few headaches along the way? Of course he did, but I still introduced him to his beautiful wife, Martika Jenkins. From his football days at the University of Tennessee to being drafted in the NFL, and as my brother would say, the NFL stood for not for long for him. But seeing my brother be an exceptional athlete and then go into a career as a top financial advisor and a dynamic pastor who is very involved in social justice makes me extremely proud. I am truly motivated by my brother, Pastor Lee Jenkins. Thanks for all your support, big brother. You're an inspiration to me and so many others. It was truly a challenge just to find one sermon of my brother's to share with you because he has so many good ones. But just listen in and maybe you'll get motivated. Here we go.
You need to run into God's presence, not away from it, when you're struggling mentally. Let me say that again. When you're struggling mentally, you need to run into God's presence, not away from it. You see, Mount Sinai was called the mountain of God because that's where the presence of God was.
There are three things we need to know about temptation that can lead to entanglement. You see, before you get entangled in something, there were some signs along the way. There were some things that you did or some things or some decisions rather that you made. So we don't just get entangled. There are some things that happen. And some of these things are outward things and some of these things are inward things. There are some things going on inside of us in our heart that we have to deal with. Because a lot of you all are being tempted right now. A lot of you all may be even in an entanglement right now or headed to an entanglement, or maybe you're coming out of an entanglement. So what are some of the things you need to understand about temptation, especially relational or sexual temptation? Let me give you three. First of all, you need to know that temptation is universal. Everybody gets tempted. There is a tailor-made temptation just for you. You see, that's why we have to be careful not to judge people and not to condemn people. You know, we say, well, I can't believe she did that, or I can't believe he did that. I would never do that. Well, you're probably right. Maybe you would never do that. But believe me, there is something that you will do because everybody has a tailor-made temptation. So don't be surprised by temptation. You should expect it. But just because, again, you have been tempted doesn't mean that you have sinned.
Thank you again, brother, for being such an inspiration and for giving back to the community. Now, moving on to Bishop Dale C. Bronner.
This is Bishop Dale Bronner. I've been a member of Word of Faith since 1991 when it was first started. However, my brother started a church a couple of years ago, so I said, okay, I got to sneak over to my brother's church, but I miss it. When I go to Word of Faith, it's always great. So the Bronner brothers being honored tonight, how do you feel about that? Because you've been just there, just planting the seeds, and I listen to your messages all the time because you're such a great teacher. So how do you feel about this honor?
It's an extreme honor for us, and really the honor belongs to our Father. He's the one that built the foundation of it, and we just carry it on today. And so this is an honor that we receive on his behalf because it is carrying out the legacy that he started.
Yes, your father. I tell you, I met your father when I first came on board Upscale Magazine, and I was trying to be a model. I'm not a model, but I said, you know what, if I could get in the Bronner Brothers show, then hey, I'm there. And I was there. I met your father, started working for Upscale Magazine, found out that you had a great church, and it's just been a great experience. And I just want to thank you for giving back and just for being an inspiration.
You have to decide in advance, what are you going to let stop you or discourage you? Are you going to let the fact that money gets tight, are you going to let that derail your destiny? Are you going to let the fact that you get tired and you get sweat in your eyes, or that somebody talks about you in social media, are you going to let that stop you from doing what God called you to do? Are you going to let the criticism that comes out of the mouth of other people stop you from doing what God called you to do because somebody else couldn't see your value? Decide what you will allow to stop you and decide what you won't allow to stop you. Remember, your decisions determine your conduct, your character, and your destiny. All change begins with a decision. There's some decisions that people make that changes the course of their life because they decided, I've had enough. No more. Never again will I allow myself to be treated this way. One decision to say enough. And a person who had put you in fear because you were afraid to leave. But when a person made a decision, I'm going for it. I'm going to leave the comfortable. I'm going to leave the familiar. I'm going to leave security. You always have to leave security in order to take advantage of opportunity. Always. You cannot seize opportunity and hang on to the comfort of security at the same time. They live on two different islands. So when you go after opportunities, the opportunity to walk on the water means that you have to give up the security of the boat.
Back in the 90s, when I met and interviewed Bishop T.D.Jakes for Black Elegance magazine, he offered messages of deliverance. One thing I asked Bishop Jakes was if men were intimidated by successful women. And this is what Bishop Jakes told me, and I quote, "If a woman would use some of her strength and speak to her man, letting him know that her success does not exclude him, and reaffirm the fact that he is needed, it would maximize his opportunity to go into the phone booth and transform from Clark Kent into Superman. And he'll always be around." Listen in on one of Bishop T.D. Jakes' sermons, which he shared on his Instagram page and his YouTube channel.
When God gets ready to move, he can move. The accountant can show you the numbers. The numbers can look horrific. The accountant didn't lie. The business is in shambles. But when God gets ready to move, he can move. The doctor can show you the x-ray. The x-ray can show you the tumor. The tumor is there. The x-ray's not lying. But when God gets ready to move, he can move. It can be too late in your life, the wrong time, the wrong season, the wrong city, the wrong place, the wrong people, the wrong partner, the wrong relationship. But when God gets ready to move, he can move. You don't always have to move for God to move. You can stand right where you are and God can move right where you are. You can be in the wilderness and God can bring the bread to you. You can be in the wilderness and God can bring water right out of a rock. You can be in the wilderness and God can heal you without a hospital. What a mighty God we serve, that's able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we may ask or think. He's just able.
Well, I hope you enjoyed those spiritual tidbits. For me, being in nature always brings me back to my spiritual center. Until next time, you all, go for your dreams. Never give up. Believe the best is yet to come. And I'll talk to you soon.
Love is kind and love is truth. Love is making no excuses to the one you say that you're caring for. Love will strengthen us when we're too weak to hold each other up, and love will keep us warm in the cold. So how can we lose?